Friday and almost 5 o'clock. Now I worked, I shouldn't complain, but I normally work about half a day on Friday. I kind of went over a few hours. So here I am just now at 5 o'clock getting started. The time is changing. It's getting a little later every day, but I mean, about 6 o'clock it's going to be dark probably. So I've got about an hour. I'm going to take, and here's my goals for the weekend. Goal number 1, I want to get this World Cup soccer head decals, and I want to get it silkscreen. We're basically, by next week, after everything's said and done, it should be ready to just throw together and then put on top of here. Goal number two, I want to basically get the glass on here, or just get my cheap piece of glass, throw on here, tape some of this up, and I want to take and get these polished up like they want to be. I want this one to match this one, and then I'm going to super polish them so they look super chrome. Goal number 2. Goal number 3, I want to, by the end of this weekend, I'd like to have playfield set up so I can be ready to swap it. Even if I don't actually start the swap, I'd like this out of the way, the heads on, and playfield ready to go for doing the swap. So that's my 3 goals this weekend. Last weekend, my goals, I only accomplished a couple of them. And so, I didn't get the last one, which was mess with his head. So I'm having to start there today. So let me quit talking about it and get started. And hopefully goal number 1 will be met tonight. All right, all I'm trying to do is get this flat. You see the orange peel in it, no big deal. I'm gonna flatten that out. And I'm gonna try 400 and 600. I'm gonna start with 6 and let's see what that does. I'm not looking to have a bunch of cut throughs and stuff, which really isn't a big deal because the decal is gonna be there. But I still kind of wanna see what it can do. So I'm gonna start with 600 and we'll go from there. All right, I'm gonna be using this little inner pad here to help even out when I'm drilling or when I'm sanding, to keep it as even as I can. So let me put on my mask and let's go to town. I want you to notice look at the low spots or the shiny spots there. Here's where it's sanded. These low spots right here and here, those are almost like a guide coat. So when I'm sanding, this is stuff I've just recently learned myself to really do it better, is I don't need to sand a bunch of this all over again. Let me back up. Let me see what I'm seeing. You don't need to sand a bunch of this spots. You just want to get these to disappear and then you're good. So like down here, I'm not going to do much other than trying to get here and along here. But I don't want to do a bunch here and wipe away a bunch of that clear coat. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to be doing. I started with a 600. I felt like it wasn't quite aggressive enough. So I'm doing the 400. And I think it's probably aggressive enough. I just need to be patient. All right, let's look. Now I did have some cut through, and to be honest, I kind of expected that. Yeah, we got cut through, but you know what? It is so freaking smooth. I finished off with 600, and I'm telling you, there is no grain there that you can feel. That grain is smooth as silk. So, because this is going to be decaled, that doesn't matter. Now, if I was sanding it to get rid of the orange peel, and then was going to go ahead and go from there, I'd have to respray the black on here and then put new clear on it. So, I'm glad that I don't have to do that. That's why I'm not going after any orange peel on the back or on the top, because I think it still looks great, and I don't want to mess nothing up. So that's ready for decal. So I'm going to take and switch and flip the other side over. I mean, it's been about a 10-15 minute process, but I'm going to copy the same thing. You don't have to watch it, and then we'll look at doing the decals on these, which you'll find are really much easier than the one on the front. Famous last words. All right, it got dark, so I came inside. I'm gonna grab the naphtha. We're gonna wipe her down, and then we're gonna go ahead and put on the decal. Let's see. I try to wipe one direction so I can push everything one way. I don't know if that matters. I hate to just smear it around. I hate to just wipe all over and smear it. So we're gonna do it again here. Actually, I can turn it over to this side. Get just a little more, not much, just a little bit more. There we go. Kind of do it again. Here. Okay, looks clean now. Not really getting too much out, so I'm gonna take a clean one. I should have been ready for that. Let's see. Okay, a clean one here. Naphtha evaporates fairly quickly, but I'm gonna help it along here. And I can use it here because this wood is sealed, so it's not going to seep into the wood or anything. I'm not in any danger of messing anything up that way. Okay, it's nice and clean. So now we got to do is size it up, and then we'll use just the tack cloth for the actual last wipe before we put it on. Now, I'm going to let you watch me size this thing. I'm going to tell you, it just takes time. I've already looked at my phone some, but I may have to look at it again. We'll see. The last one, I will say these are from Classic Arcades on eBay. They're decent. They're decent decals. However, whenever I went to put them on the other side, and I was looking at pictures off of Pinside, it didn't matter. They didn't line up quite the same. Now, one thing I did find out from Pinside though is that if you notice when you look, the cup, this I guess it's the World Cup or whatever, is off to the side. It's not in the center. Well, I was looking online. I found out that the cup is offset to the back side. So that's how I knew which side was which, because these aren't the same. When I had both of them, I had to cut it and separate the two head decals. And one side was right for one, and one side was right for the other. But if you're not careful, it'd been easy to switch them and not realize it. So what I'm gonna do, yeah, that looks pretty close there. I'll leave it sitting long enough. It'll roll up a little real quick. I'm gonna take this, put this in the center, and that'll kind of help keep it in place at least a little bit, so I can, if I'm kind of sliding and moving, it won't like jerk it, and then I have to start all over by figuring it out. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make sure that if I drew an imaginary line down the middle of this trophy and split it in two, I want my imaginary line to be parallel with the edge of this outer edge here of the actual cabinet. So I'm looking here, and because obviously the trophy here isn't as wide as it is up there, you know, I'm not gonna have probably the same distance right here as I had up there. And when I did the other side, that's exactly what happened. I couldn't, you know, it didn't have the same thing, but whenever I finished it and put it up, I could see that my trophy was standing upright, like it's standing. You don't want your trophy leaning one way or the other, and I'm exaggerating it, but you know what I mean. So I think I'm in a pretty good place. I think I'm gonna actually go with this. So I'm gonna get a new razor blade to cut this, because if it cuts it really clean, I won't have any of the little paper debris getting in there. And if you've never done these before, that may not make sense, but when it happens to you, boy, it'll make sense then. Because I've had that happen to me before. All right. And try to keep things even. Even when you're pulling this apart, try to keep it as even as you can. Because it's when you start getting it uneven, that's when you start getting these weird creases and things and stuff. So even laying it down, you want to try to lay it down fairly even. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I've got to here. And I don't mind that sticking to a point. Let me see. Because I don't want that to stick. I don't mind if it sticks on this little edge right here. Because that little edge is going to be cut off later. But I don't want to stick any more than that on there. So let me cut this. I don't know if y'all can see it. You're just going to trust me, I guess. There we go. See, nice and clean. Left no residue, but I'm still going to take my tack cloth and go over it one more time. Now I'm going to unstick this here. I run across that too, but all right, here we go. I'm gonna hold it fairly taut. Like I say, because this shouldn't let it move any. I'm gonna start going across. That'll take care of itself in a second. Now we can take these down because we don't need them anymore, because the stickiness will hold this just fine. Okay. Looking up here, it looks like all my edges fell right about what I guessed and anticipated, more or less. Which is good, because now if this is down, this is wherever this is, whenever this wants to lead it, that's where it's going to go. Okay, so now we're going to come back here. Well, actually, before you peel that up, it makes it easier to do your tack cloth with that on there, so you don't get stuck to it, because you don't want to stick. You don't want your tack cloth to get stuck on there, or it's going to end up leaving. It's going to end up leaving stuff. The sticker will take stuff off the tack cloth. Okay. So now we're going to take. We're going to see this a little better this time, I think. This down here. So you want one smooth motion of cutting. That way it doesn't let anything fall, any of that paper product get in there. And if you cut it smooth, there won't be any paper product to get in there. All right, now. What's up here? I'm looking at what I already had. Make sure all that looks good. Get this. Okay, now. Pull it down here. Now keep in mind, I only have it cut so far. So what I'm gonna do, I hold that kind of taut and just kind of now I can tell I'm to my sticky area. So now I'm gonna look here. Look at that, no bubbles. Perfect. Perfect. Right. So we're gonna come back, and this will be the last leg here. Same thing applies. Take this, and don't get me wrong, it's nerve-wracking to a point. I get nervous a little bit every time I do this. I'm sure as many as Chris has done, he probably doesn't get like that. And a lot of these other guys that do a lot of restorations, Kevin Graisley, people like that, they've done a lot. So I haven't done as many decals, so I still get pretty nervous. Because basically, I don't want to screw it up. I want it to be perfect, you know. The good thing is I don't do this for a living, so at least it's not something that I have to worry about later. You know, taking somebody's money and messing it up or something, you know. So that's kind of nice. Now, before I start going any farther, again, I'm gonna look to where I stopped and make sure there's nothing like any air bubbles where I was at, because now I'm gonna kind of start again, keep it taut. Don't let this middle sag and drop. I've had people help me before, and while they were supposed to be holding this, they let it get saggy and this middle sag and touched, and once it does, it touches and leaves a big crease and it's hard to get out. So definitely keep it taut the whole time as best you can. But see how I'm pulling here? It's kind of making a crease here for me being taut here. So it's a delicate balance. That's why I think Chris attaches one corner and then does it, but I haven't quite got his technique on that yet. So because that's one quarter hold itself, I just haven't quite got that technique. So I'm not doing that just yet. There we go. Smooth, no bubbles. How you like that? All right. Very nice. See? Like I say, it's stressful, but it can be done. And you see, it doesn't even necessarily take that long if you know, the longest part's usually sizing it if you're getting in the right place. Once you have that, to be honest, the rest of it's not so bad. And try not to overwork it with this, because what happens if you start overworking with this and you're not careful, some of these decals, the ink is not that great, or the protective coating, and it'll actually start scratching them. Let's go, let me get the sander, and now we'll sand this down, sand these edges. So again, I could dedicate this whole episode and chapter, I could dedicate to help, because all this stuff I did practically with this, I learned from him. And so again, thanks Chris, which I know I say that a lot, but man, I've learned so much from him, because he's, you know, if I'm gonna learn, I want to learn from the best, and he's the best. All right, so now we're off here. Now, this right here, let me push them in good where you can see it. That's the indentions for the screws. But see how smooth all this turned out? Look at that. See, that's from the wood prep too, man. If you don't prep it good, I'm telling you, you're not gonna have all this good smoothness. Now, okay, let's try that. Let me see if I can get that on there. Come on. Sharpie paint pen, bold, large, black. You got them on Amazon. And this one's they actually last a good while. So I've been really impressed with those. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna basically start on the end here.
keep my finger rest, and I don't want to go into the artwork, so I'm going to try to stay on that edge and just very gently. I'm not pushing hard at all. I'm just kind of gently rolling down. Now, if I miss any spot or if it gets wider there, which it did, it's going to need a little more. No worries. I try not to stop too much, but sometimes I have to stop and reset here. There we go. Now, that looks better already, but we'll get a close look in a second. I'm gonna look it over right up in here. I've still got some white spots showing. Let me kind of show you. Okay, come around here and show you here, see? Come on, phone, behave. Focus. See, I've got that part turned out good there, but see, I get right there. And by the way, it's not an air bubble. That's where the screw goes. See, some of that, I made that bevel a little wider there, so I need to go back and add to it, and then I'm going to try to cover up some of that. Okay, so now I'm going to come back here. I'm going to start right back here where the last spot. I'm going to change my angle just a little bit so I can come up here on the decal, just a hair. Make sure I'm leaving enough. Over here, I'm going to get a little wide. Now I got a little thick, so I'm actually going to try to absorb a little of this here. There we go. I'm gonna get one of my other pens before I mix it all up. See if I can get it to actually absorb a little of that paint. To get it just right, let's see. Where it's not quite so thick. Yeah, see, that worked pretty good. Yeah, that absorbed some of that. Okay. Let's take a look here, see. Let's look at that edge, see? Even though it got a little wide on my bevel, it's still covered good. And I get down here, and this is where I had those scratches, but see? Luckily they were on the back side, and it wasn't too bad, so I'm got all my scratches out. Or, not out, but covered. But see, if you kind of back up and look, nobody's gonna see me twice about any of that. I mean, it's gonna be just fine. See? So I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest, and then to be honest, this thing's gonna be ready for silk screening here in a minute. All right, I'm gonna open up the screw holes, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take and I'm gonna use an X-Acto knife. I find it's easier to kind of get in here and do it. It doesn't have to be perfect yet. When I go to actually put the screw in there, I will make sure and cut this edge one more time possibly so that the decal doesn't get pulled in. I'm sorry, I don't know if that was off camera because I was watching. Let me kind of do this again. Now this one's full of Bondo actually, so I never knocked the Bondo out like I needed to, so I'm gonna have to do that at some point. But that's all right for now. I just want to know where the holes are and have them opened up. Come down here. There we go, that's perfect. Get that. See, and there's still gonna be a little bit of edging. And which people mess up with, and I used to mess up with all the time, is when I was so excited when I get a decal on, it was time to put the bolts in, I would put them in, I would tighten up nice and tight. And what happened was, as you've seen in even on old games that are still original, the bolt head would actually sink into the wood ever so slightly and leave it indented, or it'll crinkle the decal around it. So what you do is you gotta be sure when you're tightening it, you're actually watching the interface between the head bolt, or bolt head, excuse me, and the actual cabinet and the decal to make sure it's not, as you draw it in, it doesn't actually twist up and mess up the decal. Because you did all this good work to make this nice decal, getting the wood nice and smooth and everything else. The last thing you want to do is go and screw that part up. And see, you can see underneath, see how good the decal turned out, but that was because of the wood prep and then getting it put in place right. Is that there? See, and sometimes you gotta watch, you get either a hint of glue from something or maybe even a scuff. There we go. And so yeah, so there it is. Like I say, in a minute I'm gonna show y'all how I do the silk screening on the big part in the back. We're gonna do the silk screening back there, and when I do, I'll have my goal for today complete. I'll have this done, and I'll have this thing ready to be put back together and thrown on this game. So that's pretty exciting because that's a huge step forward to getting me ready for the playfield swap over there. So excellent. And I haven't eaten dinner yet, so I'm gonna eat dinner and then I'll probably do the silk screening. All right, let's do some big silk screening. There you go. Not necessarily my best work, but not freaking bad. Now I gotta go clean all this up. All right, it is after midnight. Now I got goal number 1 accomplished. I got the decals done on the head, and I actually got the, let me come around here, in a kind of position to protect it, but I've got the screening done, but I think I already showed that, showed the video, or on the video, in this video I've already shown how to do it. But anyway, let me come back here and just show you kind of where I'm sitting. There's the head, there's the body, and man, they're getting real close to getting together. And so once I can get them together and kind of clean up some of this mess, we're gonna get the playfield out, and I'm gonna go ahead and bring that other one down and try to start doing the playfield swap maybe this weekend or Monday.